Hey everybody, today I would like to talk to you about something that means more to me. Ronald Reagan's Army, and it's the thing in my life, again, besides my sons, I'm most proud of. My father was a Army veteran, served in the Korean War. Actually, not in Korea, actually the war, before we had a forever defined border at the 38th parallel. Um, he was in South Korea, North Korea, fought the North Koreans, fought the Chinese, fought South Korean irregulars, removed mines, built bridges. My grandfather was in World War I in the U.S. Army, and we can trace our lineage in the U.S. Army back to the Ohio Artillery, because I've got my great-great-grandfather's discharge papers. So I guess the reason I wanted to make this video was because of the Army's 250th anniversary and the optics of the parade that's getting such mixed reviews, I guess, because it's hard to criticize, because we all want to be patriotic and we all want to support the troops, and I'm no exception. But this has been a long time where I've been concerned about what I see in the Army, and I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the Army I left and the Army now in terms of its importance or its commitment or its dedication. Now, we trained and every day for a possible confrontation with the Russians, and I think that might be something we need to start training for again. But when I go out, and this is true especially when I used to go to Killeen to the dentist for my two sons, or just to browse through the Army surplus stores and things like that, which is something I like to do too. I would see troops in their duty uniforms, and I don't think I've ever seen the Army look worse across the board than what I see when I'm out and around. I was shocked to be at a movie theater one evening, and 6 soldiers came in their utility uniforms, their camo uniforms, and sat down and watched a movie. When I was in the Army, you had strict regulations on when you could wear your utility uniform. You could wear it to get gas. You could wear it if you were getting something quick at the convenience store. You couldn't wear it in the grocery store shopping. You couldn't wear it walking around the mall. You could wear it to a medical appointment, to a doctor or a dentist or something like that, but you didn't wear it just a, what am I looking for? A casual outfit that you just wear around town with your family. And also, what really I think is a mistake is the Army allowing soldiers to travel on airlines, on civilian airlines, on civilian travel in their duty uniforms. Go all civilian, or go back to traveling in your dress uniform. I traveled all across the country on civilian air in my Class A uniform. And the reason we did that was it was regulations at the time, but it was also a huge recruiting boost, because people would stare at you, they'd look at you, they'd ask you about your uniform, they'd ask you about your ribbons, they'd ask you about the shiny things on your uniform, and it was huge when it came to recruitment. But now I see soldiers sleeping, in their duty uniforms on a duffel bag in an airport lounge. And I just, it takes me back to this parade. The parade didn't surprise me. It was heartbreaking to see, but it didn't surprise me. This started out with the old guard, and the old guard looked immaculate. So, and then after that, the old guard ceremonial band looked fantastic and sounded fantastic because there are higher standards there. I was shocked that soldiers just walked through this parade. It didn't look like marching. Anything that I've seen, because I was taught 9 to the front and 6 to the rear. That's the way we do it here. I didn't see anybody's arms moving in unison. I didn't see anybody's head straight forward while the other ranks turned and saluted when they got to the reviewing stand. And I was stunned to see the entire army, except for the army with the new rifles and new machine guns or light machine guns and things like that, and the drones. They were carrying their weapons. But the army as a whole, these different units that marched through, were disarmed. It used to be in a parade, you were either shoulder arms or sling arms, one of the two. Unless there's something I don't know about, there's some security situation I don't know about, and if that's the case, I'd recommend Pete Hegseth quit playing grab ass with the troops and doing PT with the troops and stay behind his desk and take care of some of these things and root out some of these security problems. Because this is just, as a veteran, as an Army veteran, as someone whose family has given everything to the Army, to see this was concerning, let's say. Because there were some parts of it I thought the Army looked great. The armored units, and I'm an old grunt, so it's hard for me to say that the tankers look good. But the tanks look great. Showing off the drones was great, but for God's sake, who had the guy carrying the drone around? There you'll see the footage of it. For one thing, how do you do that? How do you walk that far holding up a drone like that? How ridiculous that looked. Whoever told him to do that ought to be demoted and ought to be made to carry a drone around base all day long one day in their PT uniform. But anyway, the Army's got to change, and that's what we elected President Trump to do. We elected President Trump to save the military from what 12 years of Biden and Obama have done to the military, have done to the Army specifically. And one last thing I'm going to add here, probably the most controversial thing I'm going to say, is that women cannot serve in the infantry, in my opinion. Having been in the infantry, there's no way that I could occupy a two-man fighting position where I could establish a front line with someone of a different gender. There's privacy issues. Who's going to the bathroom where? If they bring a field shower out, which happened once when I was in the Army, but I hear it happens now more. How does that going to be handled? But most of all, the physical strength issues cannot be overcome. They simply can't. I'm sorry. I have. There are some women that are my heroes. I've got an autographed picture of Jean Patrick on my wall. I love Margaret Thatcher. I've got an autographed book of hers. I'm not anti-woman, but I am anti-needless death on the battlefield. When I went through airborne school, this would have been in 1982. So yeah, I'm an old fart. I'm an old grumbly fart from the Reagan Army. But when I went to airborne school, one of the hardest things for me, and I was in the best shape of my life because I was just coming out of high school, one of the hardest things for me was the pull-up requirement. I barely passed that pull-up requirement. My arms are like 20 feet long. And if you've ever done Army graded pull-ups, they're not the pull-ups like you see the guys in the gym that are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're where you have to hang straight down and you have to come to a complete stop and then get your chin over the bar, and that's one. In the airborne school that I attended, women were exempt from the pull-up requirement. So this has been happening for a long time. So why do they do that? Well, in airborne units, in any infantry unit, you need people to do jobs that men just are reluctant to do. I can remember standing in formation and our major would say, we need someone to be a clerk. We need a clerk for S2, S3, something like that. And no one would raise their hand. So now I'm not saying that those are the only jobs that women can do, but I'm saying that the Army needs people that are willing to do those kinds of jobs. And Testosterone Terry does not want to be sitting behind a desk typing up enlisted evaluation reports. And we also needed riggers, and women were outstanding riggers. So I just wanted to kind of throw this message out there, and I know it's like a message in a bottle, about one old veterans. I hate to refer to myself as old because I guess it's accepting reality. But one old veteran's concerns about the Army that he loves so much. And my plea to Pete Hegseth to start taking this job seriously. Stay behind your desk. Get this stuff done. Get these changes made. Get some pride back in the Army. Because the Army I saw for the 250th anniversary parade was the most wrinkled, demoralized Army I have ever seen on a parade. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time to talk a little bit about my favorite subject. See you later.